On today's episode of IT Unplugged, we look at the most dangerous way to run a business.
At M2 Technology, we're on a mission to make IT accessible to everyone. Join us on our journey to demystify the ever-evolving world of business technology. Are you ready to get unplugged?
Welcome back to IT Unplugged. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mike.
And today we are going to look at data backup, why you need to back up your data if you're a small or medium-sized business, and how not to get caught losing everything. So, Mike, there's some just lots of crazy stories out there where companies lose everything when it comes to their data. Do you have any stories out there when it comes to data and any kind of close calls?
Yeah. Every once in a while, somebody will delete something, right? So as small as just an individual document or a file or a folder, and depending on the type of backup that you have deployed, you can restore that very quickly. On the opposite end of the spectrum, perhaps somebody was to have a breach, an entire data breach, and network's completely offline, and the entire server or servers will need to get completely restored.
Holy cow. Okay, so I'm just trying to think, as a business, I've talked to some business leaders, and it seems like they might be a little bit hesitant for data backup. And sometimes the reason being is because they don't think that they have like a lot of data that's, let's say, like needs to be compliant or proprietary stuff. But I think one of the great measuring stick questions that you can kind of bring to the table is, if you lost all of your data, all of your SOPs, all the things that you have, could you run your business? I mean, how do you think that kind of works when it comes to a measuring stick, and how do business owners react when you say, hey, I think you should still back up your data even if you don't have anything proprietary or compliance related?
Or everything lives in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
So there's always a way to back something up, kind of regardless of how you look at it. The good phrasing for that question would be what's the price that you put for being not operational? So let's say you're selling your auto dealership, you're selling cars, or you're a small medical practice and you see patients. You're down for an entire day. You're down for 8 hours. Okay. How much money would that cost you then, or how much would you lose out on if you're not able to function for that 8-hour time period? So, even if you are cool with just closing shop for a day, or you're cool with closing shop for a week, or whatever it might be, what's that dollar amount?
Yeah.
So, you start with asking yourself that, and then you look at what's the cost of, the proposed backup solution, or the proposed data that you have on site to back up your servers and your data like that. It becomes very worth it very quick.
So obviously there's different scales when it comes to what a business, is protecting. And sometimes it's data, and then other times it's just like you're talking about, like productivity. I know one client that we were talking to, they're in the manufacturing space, and it's all about efficiency, right? So if they were to go down for an hour, it's going to cost them tens of thousands of dollars. So it is so important that they have a backup ready to go, and something that they can spin up right away, rather than go, we got to shut down shop. With that being said, though, there's also some other things. Maybe it's customer perception, right? Like, are you really okay with shutting down your shop for a couple days and having customers not be available? The example that comes to my mind is Quick Trip, right? So, Quick Trip kind of went down. Do you frequent Quick Trip, Mike?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't have any gas vehicles, so
no.
I don't have that issue.
I just remember that. Okay. I don't know. They got pretty good food, right? But, But with that being said, I went into Quick Trip, and they had the signs that were out there saying, like, hey, we've been down. It's affecting our inventory and everything like that. And I went in, and it was just all, they lost a bunch of stuff from a breach, and it was all like empty. And the customer perception there was kind of different from that normal everyday Quick Trip kind of thing. So I think there's multiple things there, right? It's productivity, but it's also the perception that, hey, I lost everything. I'm having to start over, or maybe that, loss of efficiency. So when it comes to data backup, like, a lot of people will say I'm in the cloud, right? What the heck does that mean for a business? And, do you think all data backup should be in the cloud?
Talking backup specifically, cloud references a storage point or a location where you're storing a backup. If you're working with like Datto, for instance, DATTO, it functions in two aspects. You have an on-site, so something that lives on-prem, on the device itself. That's where one chunk of your backup or one copy of your backup lives. And then the other copy gets sent off-site to their secure cloud that nothing else lives in. Like, it's not like it's shared with AWS or something. It's just off by itself. So you always have the two versions. The reason for that is if you have total loss, the building you're in burns down, completely gone. The device that's doing the backup is also gone because it was a total loss, right? The building's on fire. The server is a total loss because the building's on fire. All your computers are gone. You still have the option to take the backup from the cloud, or you could virtualize it in the cloud and then function, you're a manufacturer and you need to have that data back online. Everybody has laptops, so they had them with them. You could virtualize that server in the cloud and then point the network, if you will, like temporary network, to the cloud version of the backup and still have business somewhat like normal. If you didn't have a cloud version of that backup, let's say you have tapes or USBs that you plug in and out every night and you take them with you, but you kind of forget sometimes, and it's sitting on Craig's desk, and Craig didn't take it home because he's been forgetting or whatever. Then that's then in that case gone, right? It burned down with the building.
Sure.
That's why you rely on a cloud in that case.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that a lot of times, I don't know, maybe you had to pick cloud versus on-site, but you're saying, hey, you can do both, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all of Datto's offerings have both.
Okay, awesome. It's funny that you kind of mentioned the tapes, because learning about IT, being kind of new, I was like, nobody uses those anymore, do they? And like the second place that I talked to, they said, yeah, we have a guy that puts tapes in his backpack every night, walks out, walks back in. I'm like, what if that guy gets sick? What if that guy gets, God forbid something happens to him?
He gets in a car accident. Yeah, it's way less common than it has been in the past. But yeah, you still run into it every once in a while.
Yeah. I wonder why companies just don't always, it's hard to keep up with the brand new thing every single time, like adapting. It's like, my wife just got a new phone. This is embarrassing, okay, but we went from the iPhone 8 to the new iPhone 15. Okay, you see, I saw the look of judgment there. And with that...
Like 2012.
Yeah. Hey, I know, right? But, like, we skipped a couple generations there. It's like the equivalent of still using tapes, right?
6 generations.
Yeah, 6 generations. We skipped all of the better solutions along the way, so I get it, not every single one, because maybe I
think tapes specifically, people were convinced that was the light, right? Because in the past that was a solution, and in the past, now I mean like before your iPhone 8, that was more like iPhone 1 in the older territory, right? Like there's not even a nomenclature behind it, it's just iPhone. Because it was a tangible thing that you say, this is where my data is. And you feel good, you feel all warm and fuzzy, and you put it in your bag and you go home at night and then you have it with you and you're like, I have our backup.
Yeah.
Great. But there's 2 unanswered questions with that. One is it backing up? Like yes, no, because sometimes it's just a checkbox. So, okay, yes, it is. Okay, great, we have our checkbox. And then is whatever it's backing up actually valid?
Yeah.
Right. So is that verified to work if you need to restore from it? In a lot of cases, it's not.
Sure.
As tapes, specifically tapes, as tapes progressed, they went from a physical tape, like a small little data tape, to just like a regular like removable drive, like hard drive. More reliable than tapes were, but still can corrupt and still can have issues. And even if it's not the physical tape or hard drive itself, perhaps you'd have an issue with the process that's doing the backing up.
Sure.
And you'd never know until you need it. So then you're trying to roll back, right? And you have 10 tapes. So you have like, maybe it's 10 days or 10 weeks or whatever the interval is to try. And then when you find one that does work, now instead of being from earlier today or yesterday or last week, it's like, July.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, this is the newest that we have. Oh, geez. Right. So something like Datto, every backup point is fully verified with a screenshot verification that gets emailed to your MSP. So
Sure.
we know, if we were to restore from this, here's proof. It's virtualized, and there's a screenshot of the control at delete screen of the server or of the computer or of the whatever. So that data is good.
Yeah.
The other thing that they do with that is if there's malware or there's any type of infection or something like that, it checks immediately. So if it's detected that there is, then it ceases backup operation so that it doesn't override good data with data that's infected or encrypted.
Okay.
Or like an issue like
Yeah.
that. The frequency is much higher if you would like to be, or very infrequent, but typically
break
much
that,
higher.
Yeah, break that down though, like the frequency, because let's say tapes at night. I know we keep going back to that, but
Yep.
yeah, you plug it in, it's once a day or something like that. Like when it comes to new data backup or at least contemporary data backup, when you say frequency, what does that exactly mean, and what are the options for companies?
So, Datto specifically, the frequency can be as frequent as every 5 minutes, or as infrequent as never, but as once a month, once a week, once a whatever, and then anything in between. So it's not just limited to hours of operation. So let's say if it's an actual tape, like we're talking about, or a different type of backup that requires manual intervention, then obviously someone needs to be in office to start or stop or eject or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's say that person isn't there on a Monday, and no one else necessarily is aware of needing to do that, or knows how, or they're not concerned with it. Then you don't have a Monday backup, right? So then, okay, they're back on Tuesday, so they're ready to plug the thing in again. But then Wednesday's, a holiday, so everyone's gone.
Yeah.
And then Thursday, that person is on vacation until the following Monday. So for that entire week's period or longer or whatever, you only have one backup then, right? And we still have the question, is that working? We don't know. So Datto is just, it manages itself. Once we configure it to do so, then it knows, okay, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Saturday, you work on Saturdays, whatever. This time to this time, take a backup of this area or this data set at the interval that we tell it to.
Yeah.
Then every single interval, let's say it's 7 to 5, every single backup for 10 minutes apart from each other, we know is good data. We know it's working. It's in 2 spots, on-site and off-site. It's just total peace of mind without any type of user interaction.
Gotcha.
Beneficial, you delete a file or you delete a folder, you call us up, hey, I deleted this really important spreadsheet. I need this back. How fast can we get it? Oh, no problem. From when? Oh, I deleted it this morning. It was 9 o'clock or something. Okay, well, we have from 7 a.m. until 9:30 because it's 10 right now. Which do you want? Let's see if it's there at 9:05. Okay, right, and we spin it up. Oh, is this it? Oh, no. It's this is bad. Okay, here's 8:55. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right before I deleted it. Perfect.
So you're saying that data backup isn't just for breaches and ransomware and stuff like that. This could be for Julie or Bob that's sitting in the office and just kind of goes, I don't think I need this file. Deletes it from the company database, and you can just go back and find all that stuff. It's used more often for that than it is for a breach, that's a good thing, right? It would be very depressing if the only time you ever use your data backup is for when you get breached, because you hope to never have to encounter that, right? But sure.
It's there as kind of like your best friend when you need it to potentially save the day, and a lot of times you're helping the employee then avoid having a very unfortunate conversation with whoever their manager, boss, whatever. This spreadsheet we've been working on is now deleted and we have to start over.
Oh, so there's they call you on the down low and they're like, hey Mike, I just deleted the presentation that we have in 2
You can
hours.
call me on the down low.
Yeah.
I'll answer. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we know who to call if there's an actual issue, if you have the data backup.
Yeah,
right?
not the Ghostbusters.
No. Okay. So with that being said, you kind of talked about how it can be at different intervals, right?
Yep.
Now, this is something that this is a question that I asked when I started doing sales in IT is, that seems like you are downloading a lot of data over and over and over, because some customers do want it every 5 minutes. So like, can you kind of explain how that works?
That is a good question. The technical verbiage for it is deduplication, and that's.
Did you make that up?
I didn't make it up, but also I can't spell it, so go away. But it basically just means, hey, if you have these 43 documents that are, those are your prized possessions, and you didn't change any of them right now, but the backup happens in 1 minute, it's only taking the changes. So perhaps very little or nothing will be actually backed up. Mm-hmm. But the process still runs, and it knows that nothing was taken. So it says, hey, this is the same as your 9 o'clock backup, and it's 9:30 now. So
sure,
maybe we'll skip this because there's nothing changed. But in business, that's never the case, right? Like something always changes during business hours. So it's taking just the changes. Mm-hmm. So if that means you open a Word document, you put a space, you started typing the word "the," and then you went to the break room and it's somebody's birthday, so you're in there for a half hour. In that time frame, there's a backup that processed, right? Mm-hmm. It just has backed up just the data of your space and the word "the," rather than taking the whole document again. Not to be, don't take that the wrong way and think that there's never large backups, because there's what's called seed backups, right? Where it's taking an entire base picture, a base backup of everything, occasionally, just to have a good solid starting point, if needed.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. And it's that kind of backup seems a lot more reasonable than the, hey, we can work with customers with 300 employees, and you kind of think, oh my gosh, we're
taking everything every single time
and downloading it over and over. Like, how much data are you using? But that's not really the case. So.
No, and that's the deduplication is very beneficial to like a small medical practice where you're taking a lot of x-rays. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a dental office and you take multiple bite wings on each patient that you see throughout the day, right? So like that can add up fairly quickly. Yeah. But the total amount of storage, so the all of the x-rays where they all live, you're not backing up all of that. You're just backing up, these 3 patients, and then now it's the next hour and you're backing up some more patients. So it keeps the network free,
sure,
for normal daily use.
Yeah, yeah. In my experience, data backup, to me, it always is like a great insurance policy. But there's some customers that it takes some convincing. Have you ever had a time where maybe, just to kind of preface this as well, like, right, we can work with a client and do all of their IT for them, right? They say, hey, go ahead. You're our MSP, our managed service provider, our IT provider. We want you to handle it all. But then there's other times where we're supplemental help, right? They have an IT director or an internal IT team, and they bring us in to just help. Have you ever had a situation where maybe, that you were supplementing service and it just took a lot of convincing to actually execute on that data backup and pull the trigger on it?
The backup itself has saved the day in that situation, but convincing of a backup, typically the most difficulty would come from an additional cost, maybe, especially if you've already purchased or the business has already purchased a different form of backup that's antiquated. In this situation, maybe tapes, right? Like if you've had this slew of tapes or these slew of removable hard drives that you're doing your backup with, from a piece of software and the hardware you already purchased 8 years ago. Yeah. It's not costing you something every month, or it's not costing you something every year. So going up against that, although there's a whole slew of awesome things that this can do, and it takes it away from somebody and it takes it off their plate, and it makes everyone's life easier, and you can confidently restore individual files or all of the files or whatever very quickly and rapidly. It's difficult to compete against zero cost, right? So that would be a difficult thing to compete with, but it has saved the day plenty of times from when someone, business owner, hasn't necessarily wanted to follow our best practices for security settings or pieces of software or hardware that weren't in place when they should have been in place. We could rely on the backup to come back in and restore the server.
Ah, okay. I got you. Yeah, that's always nice. I mean, even as maybe you don't want to execute on some of the things that you say, hey, like, you might want this, you might want that. Like, data backup is still a nice additional layer. And it seems like a lot of time in IT and cybersecurity, it's, you don't want to get super, like, hundreds and hundreds of layers, because obviously there's a cost to it. But, having a backup, per se, to a backup is always kind of nice. So, yeah. With that being said, if you were a business owner right now, like, okay, so you turn around and you don't have a data backup, how nervous on a scale of 1 to 10 are you every day running your business?
Extremely.
Extremely?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems like I would have trouble sleeping at night if I did not have something in place.
Jokingly, if you have zero firewall, right, you're raw dogging the internet and you're just downloading everything, clicking on everything, but you have an amazing backup, feel free, right? Because then at least at the end of the day, you can every single night completely restore everything because you just downloaded all this junk all day.
Sure.
Right? But obviously that's not real life. Don't do that.
Yeah.
This is not financial advice, but I would find a lot of difficulty sleeping at night knowing that you have an entire data set and multiple virtualized servers and all of this whole infrastructure that is not backed up in any way. You're just relying on endpoint security, or you're relying on a firewall to save the day or something. Even not from a breach standpoint, right? Like, it's not going to happen to me, but just from an accidental deletion standpoint, like we talked about, because what if there's that one file that you need, and you go out of your way to make sure you save it in 7 spots and whatever, but it also lives all 7 spots on your network, which maybe it's your server, but your desktop too, and they all go away for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the thing is, we have to keep talking about it because we still come across places they just don't have it. So, yeah. Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate your insights, and thank you for tuning into IT Unplugged. Today we looked at some best practices when it comes to backups, and go ahead and if you found this valuable at all, hit the like, subscribe, all those other buttons down there. All right, thanks.